Are you trying to establish your brand as a thought leader? Start a podcast, invite industry experts to be guests on your show, and watch your brand become the prime resource for decision makers in your industry. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to the B2B Growth Show, a podcast dedicated to helping B2B executives achieve explosive growth. Whether you're looking for techniques and strategies or tools and resources, you've come to the right place. I'm Jonathan Green.
And I'm James Carberry.
Let's get into the show.
Hello, everyone. I'm really excited to talk with our keynote speaker today, Jill Konrath. Jill.
Well, thanks for having me here, Brandon.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I don't know if you know this, but when I first got into sales, the very first book that I picked up was one of your books, actually.
Really?
Right when Agile came out. And And I don't know how it landed on my desk, but I thought it was the best thing ever. And I've actually been following your stuff pretty closely since. So,
that's fun.
When your recent book came out, I was like, we have to talk to Jill. So really excited to have you with us today.
Thank you.
And it looks like we're actually color coordinated today.
Oh.
Love it. Well done.
Yes. Well, I had to go through my wardrobe and there was nothing there, so I had to go out and get something special.
I love it. It. Cool. So for those who may not be following you as closely as I have in the last few years, why don't you give a little bit about your background and kind of your experience in sales and marketing?
Okay. I actually started out in sales with Xerox and was knocking on doors and doing phone calling early on when telesales was early and its infancy. And then I moved into major account sales and then moved into the technology field, then sold services, then ultimately started my own consultancy where I worked on new product launches. And my love and passion has always been sales. And so I'm working with these sales VPs as they're coming out with these new products and services. And I'm looking at the crap they're getting from marketing. And I'm thinking, oh my God, there is no way these people can be successful if this is what they're working with. And so before long, I found myself really developing a specialty in the gap between marketing and sales and working with marketing ahead of time to ensure that they had the foundation that was necessary in order to create the stuff that would help the salespeople shorten their time to revenue on the product launch. So I was working in that gap for years, trying to help marketing and sales stop pointing fingers at each other, because marketing would say, these idiots, they can't sell anything, and sales would say, those marketers, if only it had these capabilities, or if only it was priced less, we could do it. And the marketers said, can't sell value? They can't sell value. And it was just like boom, boom, boom.
Yep, exactly. It's such a tragedy. I know my first sales job, sales and marketing, they weren't even in the same building. And I went to our VP of sales. This is when I was in squarely in sales. And I was like, isn't that a little weird? Like, we never talk to each other. And he's like, no, it's just checks and balances. That's how it is. And
checks and balances. Ooh, scary.
Exactly. I was just blown away with that comment about that's just how it is,
Right. Let's just accept the reality and not change anything and make it better. Because, the reality is when sales and marketing are working together in lockstep, everything runs better. Everything runs better, faster, smoother, everything.
Exactly. So I know you call yourself a sales minimalist. And I think that has a lot to do with what we're talking about today. So tell us, what is that and how does that relate to kind of sales marketing alignment?
Well, it's interesting because in sales, the word more is used all the time. We need more, and driving people to make more calls, more proposals, more. And ever since I've been in sales, I've always questioned why do we have this more mentality? Why aren't we focused on better? And why aren't we focused on high leverage activities? And what is it that could give us the maximum impact with the least amount of effort? And to me, that has been the defining it's been my personal defining motive, and it's behind every book I write too. It's like, how can you do the least amount? And it's not like I'm opposed to working, but let's make it easier. And when marketing and sales are aligned, it's a heck of a lot easier for the salespeople to achieve their objectives. When people go after bigger accounts, there's a good chance that they can make more money for the company, make more money for themselves. And also, add-on business can be, the cost of sale is down, and it's easier to keep growing an existing account than to be constantly searching for new ones. And so everything I've done my entire career is about, what's the least we can do for the maximum effort. That doesn't mean you're not working full time. It just means that everything you're doing is really thought through, purposeful, based on not hope, but, reality, and you're focused on where you have the highest chance of success. So that's what makes me a minimalist.
Nice. I like to then, I'll maybe start to call myself a marketing minimalist, right? Because the exact same thing applies with marketers and marketing in B2B. So I know you've worked with a lot of companies over your career. What's one of the biggest challenges or the biggest mistakes that you've seen teams make when trying to get alignment?
Well, let me just say I've seen a lot of them. I mean, way too many. But a lot of them boil down to a root cause. And I think it's the root cause that need to be addressed. And to me, the root cause has always been lack of rock solid understanding of the buyer, the customer that you're going after. I see it in marketing. I see it in sales. Everybody is still way too product and service focused and driving towards their personal results, but they don't know enough. They simply do not know enough. I mean, I know in recent years people have been getting into buyer personas, but let me tell you, even the ones I see in many companies are very shallow. Yeah. They're very, our buyer is a 32-year-old male who, is into extreme sports and blah, blah, blah. It's come on, let's get real. What is this buyer thinking about every day? Where is this person's role in the organization? What would make them want to change from the status quo? Oh, by the way, what is their status quo? I can tell you that way too many, virtually all marketers I've dealt with over the years, and that's not all of them, the good ones don't do it, but virtually all of them fail to tell salespeople what the status quo is and what they're going up after. And there's usually 3 or 4 primary status quos. And if you take a look, and as a seller, if you understand what are these status quos, then you understand where the leverage points are. Again, I'm going after leverage. How can we make it as minimal? Yep. But I can do my job better as a salesperson if I understand that they have this type of system or they're doing it themselves or whatever it is. And here are the natural obstacles and issues that come from this type of status quo. And then here's how they typically roll out within the organization. Here's the cost related to productivity, the cost related to, productivity, efficiency, outlay of cash, time, just everything. If you understand the status quo and what's wrong with it, then you can have an intelligent conversation with a prospective client. You can open more doors with that person, but most people don't, they just say, oh, our new product, and here's what we're selling. It has all these wonderful capabilities. Boom, 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 just tell them how wonderful we are and that we have great service and that we love our customers and we value them. It's that's a bunch of BS.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not real. It's not what makes people switch. Yep. And so to me, the most important thing is an in-depth understanding of the customer, how their decisions are made, who needs to get involved, because nobody's making a decision by themselves anymore. There's, all these teams of people and decisions get stuck because the salesperson isn't addressing the whole organization or the whole team that is involved. And so, it's not just understanding Craig, it's understanding John and Sue and Elizabeth too, and every part of their organization. So it's really, to me, it can be kind of complex. It's also very challenging, and it's really fun because there's a huge amount of strategy that can be applied once you know what you're dealing with. And that's the only way you can come up with the right approach for an account. Other than that, you're shooting in the dark and just hoping something sticks, or you found a good one in the organization that's willing to stake their career on going out on a limb with you, even though somebody else in the company says, I don't think it's going to work,
Exactly. So who then is really responsible for really driving that? What is the status quo, and how is that really affecting all the different, pieces and how it rolls out and everything? Is that marketing, or is that sales led, or is that?
Yes, it's both. It's both. Exactly. I mean, it's like, this is where the alignment comes in. I mean, I can't tell you how many organizations I have been to where the marketers haven't been out in the field and been to their customers for decades, or at least a couple years. Mm-hmm. How many people are just brought into the organization and say, oh, you're in charge of writing content, Content. Okay, just write content. Okay.
That's it. That's all you do.
Yeah, make sure we need something in 1,000 words, or we need an ebook. We need content because we're marketers and we got to put out content these days. Mm-hmm. And that these people have never really had a good conversation with a real live human being who happens to be somebody who would buy their stuff. And so there's real issues related to marketing needing to know this stuff, because they will be sharper and everything will hit home. But it's also sales jobs to get them into the right people who are the ones that we're targeting, because marketing has to, in many cases, go through sales, to make some of these connections, like what customers should we be visiting, who's got some issues that are best addressed by this product or service that we have, and they should be out there. Even like, I did a lot of work with people who did beta testing with customers first. They'd get a couple good customers on and like with software and technology, and they would go out and do the beta testing and ask, what's working, what's not working, where do we need to get fixed, and, just to make sure it was ready to go. But you know what they forgot to ask? What difference does it make? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What difference does it make? You've been using this now for a while. As a marketer, I need to understand the value you've received, and I need you to help I need to extrapolate that value. Yes, it's faster, but what does faster mean? How does it, tie into your business metrics? Mm-hmm. How does it help you achieve your goals and objectives faster or at less cost? But those are omitted things in many, many of the beta tests, which is the wonderful opportunity to get the stuff, the real meat that you need to run to market and have proof sources in terms of what you do and the value you bring.
Perfect. I love it. So I want to go back to something you kind of touched on, and that's perspective taking, because I think that's what kind of we're really talking about here, right? When we're really trying to understand the buyer, it's getting into their shoes. And I think it's one of the most important skills that, sales marketing teams must have in order to really align. So let's talk about that a little bit more.
Okay, this is kind of fun to talk about from my perspective. It's one of my favorite topics, because in all the work that I have done with salespeople, I see them intellectually understanding certain things, but not putting them into practice. For example, when I wrote Snap Selling, which was my book about how to sell to crazy busy buyers, everybody I talked to initially said, oh yeah, I know everybody's crazy busy. I know they're crazy busy. And I keep saying, well, what have you done differently because they're so busy? And it's like, there was this gap. They hadn't done anything differently. They just intellectually understood. And so one of the things I took to doing, I do a lot of keynotes, and one of the things I do in a keynote typically now is I play the role of their buyer. And some of those people in my audience will play the role of people I'm meeting with during the course of the day in my everyday work. And so what we do is we do a short 5-minute role play on a morning in the life of Jill Konrath, your targeted buyer. Okay, so that's how it is, okay? And then if I'm doing a workshop, I'll take it to another level, and I'll say, okay, now I want you to call and leave me a voicemail message. So I'll have people in a workshop say, leave a message, and somebody will point to them, and they'll say, hi, Jill, this is Brandon, and I'm calling from Engagio. We specialize in offering a full range of account-based management technology, and I will yell out, delete. Because if I was a normal human being in that position, your message was boring. It really stunk. And everybody calls and leaves me that kind of message. So I try to show people you have to get into the mindset of your buyer in order to tell if what you've created is any good. And I come from an education background many, many moons ago before I started into sales. And one of the things that I learned was the levels of thinking. And anytime you're in a job or anybody who's listening today, you start out something and the first thing you learn are the basics, like here's my job, here's what I have to do, here's our technology, here's our services. And then you move to the application level, which is now that I understand this, I have to apply it. Like a salesperson has to give a demonstration, or they have to have a real meeting with the client, not a fake meeting. And then the next level up is a level of analysis. And that's saying, okay, now I can do it in general, but how can I think about who I'm actually meeting with, talking to, trying to get a meeting with, and make it, how can I make it sing? So there's an analysis, and this goes back to some of the things I was talking about that people don't understand about their buyers and their journey. So there's the analysis, and after you do a good analysis, then you move into the synthesis mode, which is creation, and that's creating an email message to send to a customer. It's creating a PowerPoint presentation. It's even just planning a meeting is an act of creation. Most people in sales stop there, but those who are really good take it to another level. And they move into the method, the mode of evaluation, the highest level of thinking skills. And they say, okay, here is what I have created. If I were that buyer, would I be interested? Does it flow? Does it make sense? And I can tell you, most marketing and sales departments don't do that. They put, like, for example, in working with my clients, I always say, send me a deck of a presentation that you might use in an early stage presentation, not a closing thing, but something to generate interest and to get people to go, oh yeah, that's good. We really could use something like that. Or we really should investigate this further. And I get these horrible 60 slide decks designed for most people to pick and choose, but mostly they don't pick and choose, or they throw out a few. But the first, 10 slides are on. Let me tell you about our company. We started in 1997, and we've grown from this to $3 billion in sales, and we have offices in all these locations, and here's our customers, and here's what our clients are saying about us, and aren't we wonderful, and aren't we wonderful? If you had moved into that realm of perspective taking, that evaluation level, you would look at that from your client's perspective, and you would go, oh my God. This is the most boring presentation. It's all about them. They've said nothing to capture my attention, and I'm not interested. And they shut down. So a seller who does that and a marketer who does that and takes the perspective of the buyer, which is why buyer information is so crucial, can pre-correct. They can make things better before they actually meet with the customer. They can increase their likelihood of success. This goes back to the minimalist. It's what do I have to do to have a presentation or a meeting that is so effective, so effective that I have a really good shot of moving on. Really good shot of moving on. And I look at statistics on first meeting success, and I think there's something out by Forrester or maybe Gartner, I'm not sure, that says like 83% of executives are dissatisfied with their initial meetings with salespeople. 83%. Ouch. I mean, think about it. Does that mean that 83% of the people have not used perspective taking? That's exactly what it means. They're not thinking. They're just taking their decks, rolling through them, and they're horrid. So perspective taking is crucial, because if you looked at it from your customer's perspective, you would know when you'd get deleted. You would know when you'd be running into trouble. You would know when you even create an objection. I mean, in my early days, I used to get asked to do objection handling training a lot. Mm-hmm. How should we handle this objection? And again, as a sales minimalist, I go, well, what caused that objection? What caused the objection? Get in front of it. Get in front of it, because something the seller said led to that response. Mm-hmm. So if I would say to you, we specialize in offering a full range of account-based marketing, account-based everything, things that, and if you said that to me, my eyes would glaze over, and I would say, Brandon, that sounds really cool, but it's not in the budget. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's not in the budget this year. I'm really sorry. Why don't you put me on a callback list, and, next June, give me a buzz. Mm-hmm. But the salesperson created the objection. So what we have to do is go to the root cause and find out what they did to create it, because it's all about lack of perspective taking. They have walked themselves right into the obstacle.
Yep. Exactly. I couldn't agree more. One of the things that I like to say is like the best answer to a question is the answer that you give before they have to even ask the question.
Oh, that's good.
I think really what we're talking about here also is like minimizing distraction. And I know that's a big thing for you because you've written about it in all of your books, right? So talk to me about how you can really minimize distraction and how that helps your sales and marketing alignment.
Okay. Distractions right now, most people are not aware of how distracted they are. And I became real aware of it in the last couple of years because I was constantly stressed out, and I was getting up every morning and pulling my cell phone, like I'd walk into the bathroom with my cell phone and try to get as much done and everything. So most people are living in a world of distraction. Our thoughts are interrupted repeatedly. The average email is attended to. 72% of people attend to a new email coming into their inbox in 6 seconds or less.
Wow.
I mean, think about this. If you are a marketer, if you are a salesperson, you see, boom, oh, I have a new message. You have to check it out. Mm-hmm. Now, not only does that screw up your whole day because it actually adds an hour or two of extra work a day, because you're not getting anything done. Mm-hmm. But from my perspective, what I see happening and what I personally really felt is the quality of my thinking was not nearly as good. And I truly believe in today's marketplace that we need sellers and marketers who are bringing their entire brains to the job. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like, oh God, I'm working along and, email from LinkedIn. Oh, that's an interesting article. I think I'll read that article. Oh, here's another article. Boom, down the rabbit hole.
Down the rabbit hole, exactly.
Yep. The next thing you know, I'm thinking, I'm heading to Boston next week. I wonder what the weather is. And then I check out the weather in Boston and I go, oh, look at that video on the weather app. And it's about 2 automobiles going into a sinkhole in Florida. And I'm watching this video and then I go, how the world did I get here?
Yep.
And now I have to pull my thinking back to where I was. And as a marketer, you're probably working on a project or a program, that you're trying to put together, and you've just lost all your best ideas. And by the way, when the next email comes in, you'll go down that rabbit hole again, because that's what you do.
That's what happens.
Yeah, and it happens to salespeople all the time too. So here we are in a world where marketers have to be really, really savvy to do their jobs, and so do salespeople. And the quality of our ideas and insights and information is what differentiates us in the marketplace. And so we need to be smarter than we've ever been to do a good job with our own individual jobs, and also to come together from a marketing and sales alignment perspective. We need to bring all that we have, which means we really need to start thinking about protecting our time so we can be at the top of our game. I mean, it's like it truly affects the quality of thinking. Research shows that somebody who's interrupted comes up with shallow ideas, is unable to solve problems as rapidly, comes up with lame, we could try this, because they're just so distracted. They don't ever get to the ideas that can truly transform. And so they lose people along the way, and they lose their oomph, and they lose their punch, and their messages suck. And, pretty soon it's like, same old, same old. And here we need no more same old, same old. We need the sharpest people in the world. And so again, from the perspective of, minimalism, our time is our biggest asset. How we use it will determine the quality of our thinking, the creativity that we bring to any situation, and our ultimate ability to be successful. And what it means is that we just have to pay attention to our time as an asset.
Exactly. I love it. Cool. Well, Jill, thank you so much for joining us today. I know we're coming up on time. One last question. I like to end on some fun questions. What's a hidden talent of yours that most people probably don't know about?
Oh my God, a hidden talent.
There's got to be plenty in there, Jill.
Well, most people would never know because I haven't mentioned it in years. That I used to play the viola.
Oh, really? No, I had no idea.
I know most people would never know, and I really don't talk about it, but it is a hidden talent.
Nice. I love it.
I mean, it's even hidden from me today, you know? I mean, it's that bad.
Sometimes it's hidden from you. There you go.
Yeah.
Well, Jill, thank you so much for joining us today. Tell people where they can find out more about you or pick up your book.
More Sales, Less Time. Honestly, they can go to my website, jillkonrath.com, and I'd like to say to people that there are just tons of free resources on the website. I mean, like tons that have to do with helping salespeople be more effective in less effort, which ultimately means that they sell more.
Yep, perfect. And I love the practical stories that you tell, too, on your site and on your blogs. So thank you so much again for joining us, and we'll talk to you soon, Jill.
My pleasure. Bye.
To ensure that you never miss an episode of the B2B Growth Show, subscribe to the show in iTunes or your favorite podcast player. This guarantees that every episode will get delivered directly to your device.
If you or someone you know would be an incredible guest for the B2B Growth Show, email me at jonathan@sweetfishmedia.com. Let us know. We love connecting with B2B executives, and we love sharing their wisdom and perspective with our audience.
Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.